So before we proceed, let's just make sure to commit those changes that we have here, and let's call this comment create the API response models and register and initialize the HTTP client instance. Click commit and push, so all those changes available for you. Now, after we have initialized this authorization message handler, we registered the HTTP client, everything is good. Now we should implement basically the authentication mechanism, how our application will know that, hey, this user is logged in or he's not logged in, what are the properties of that user, and like if there is any roles or some stuff. In our case, there is no roles, but I will mention this very quickly so you can simply take an idea about how to implement role-based authorization. Now, to do that, actually, Microsoft has a base class called AuthenticationStateProvider, which is basically has a function called authentication state, get authentication state, which through that function, it knows that how the user, you can implement your own way to let the application knows what is the way of the identity that's provided. In our case, our authentication mechanism going to be known when there is an access token existing in the local storage. If there is an access token, we are going to decode that token, fetch all the data from it, the claims, and then the Blazor app will knows, okay, you are logged in, and those are your data. So, to create that class, I'll call it class, public class, JWT Authentication State Provider, and this one should inherit from Authentication State Provider, just like this. That's good. This one is an abstract class, and it has a function called get authentication state async. It has to be implemented just like this. I will add async. So because here you can write all the logic that represents the current authentication state. So you can build like any way of authentication. For example, if it's fake, if you have a fake user, you can just make it like this. Authentication state, new, and the new identity, claims identity, security claims, and for example, here you can pass a set of claims, new claim, ID of the user, because the claim are a set of key values like this, and identity, take the name of the authentication scheme, we'll call it barrier, for example. So right now, the application will know that there is a logged in user that had the claim ID, which is 3354, and the authentication scheme is barrier. So here you are free to do whatever you want. And because we are free to do whatever we want, we can implement a good authentication mechanism that's based on the access token existing in the local storage. So let's first inject the iLocal storage service storage. Let's register that. Storage equals storage, and that's it. So, okay, the first step is to check if there is an access token existing. It's called .contains, come on. Yes, just like this. Check if this key is the access token. Here, the user is logged in. If not, then just return a new authentication state, a new claims the principal, empty claims the principal, means no identity, and the user is not logged in. So now, because as I've said, the user in the claims authentications are when there is a claims the principal, which is the user object, and there is a set of claims with an authentication scheme. But here it's empty, so the user is not logged in. Now, we should fit the token. So I will fit the token. I'll say token as a string equals await token, storage dot get item as a string async access token. then we should do the same that JWT.ms did by decoding that token and fetch the claims from it. And to do this, we should use something called JWT security token handler. So I will type token handler equals new JWT security token handler security token handler okay. Here we go. Now it suggests to install it for us. Install package system.identitymodel.tokens.jwt. Make sure to install it. I will add or mention all the names of those libraries in the description box below. So once you have this token handler, then you can decode this token to have it as a set of claims and other stuff. So I'll type var token equals token handler dot read JWT token handler, just like this. Token string. We have two functions here. We have read JWT token and we have read token, I think. But yeah, we need to use read JWT token. Okay, that's good. Now, because of the token, you can type claims and you have a set of all the claims that you want. So let's create an identity object. Identity equals new claims identity. So the identity is a set of claims and a name of the scheme that we have, which is, we call it barrier. That's good. Now let's create the user object, which is a new claims principal, and it takes identity as a parameters. That's it. That's great. Now the authentication state is var auth state equals a new authentication state, and it takes user as a parameter. That's it. Let's type return auth state, and that's it. Actually, that's very simple. So here, the last thing that we should do, which is calling a function called notify authentication state changed. This is an event that's available, or a function that when we call it, actually there is an event here available. Let's see it on authentication state changed. So this event, other components that, for example, you are not logged in and you are in the dashboard, but after you log in, other component or the dashboard component has to do some action in, like, as a reaction for this login process. So how the dashboard component will know that the authentication state changed? By basically subscribing for this event. It injects this service and subscribe for this event through a method, and then it will know that, okay, the authentication has been changed and it can do action based on this. So basically calling notify authentication state changed will just, if other components are interested in this change. So we have to do it anyway, because for now we are not going to do this. No components will take actions when the state of authentication will change, but we will do, I will try to mention this within the course so you can know deeply about this. But for now, this will fire that event, so the subscribers functions for it from other components will be triggered. So, and it takes as a parameter task of authentication state. So I will type task.from result auth state, and that's it. So this is our custom authentication state provider that will help our application to know if the user is logged in or not. It is pretty simple. I hope you understand all the stuff here very well. So check if there is a token. If there is not, then return an empty user, which means you are not logged in. In case there is any, read the token as a string, create a token handler, decode that token, take the claims, and create an identity object, which is the claims and the name of the scheme, authentication scheme. It could be whatever you want, but one of them, like standardized scheme with barrier. User object, which is a claims principal, just takes identity, and then just return that authentication state that this function accepts. We fire this function to trigger the event authentication state changed to be fired, so all the subscribers for that event will be fired as well. Let's move this into another file. That's good. Now, what we have to do is to register two stuff in the dependency injection container. First of all, add authorization core. This one will allow us to use the authorize attribute. So then in this case, if the user is not logged in, he will be redirected to the login page or something gonna happen. And the last thing is to register .services.add scope and actually authentication state provider, authentication state provider, and register as JWTAuthenticationStateProvider. Just like this. This is everything that we need to implement authentication here on this side. So let's close it. Right now, somehow we have an efficient one. Let's go right now to app.razor and make some changes. Here in the router, I will cascading. Okay, first let me go to imports and let's import at using Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.components.authorization and also import Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.authorization. This one had the authorized view and the cascading authentication state, and this one had the authorized attribute. We're going to use those in a bit so you can understand more. And here, it's cascading authentication state. Okay, what is this cascading authentication state? Basically, it's a simple component that has the current authentication state that gives all the children component and cascading parameter. What we mean by cascading parameter also that it's a value that the parent component has, and it could, any child component could have access for. So for example, if right now, because I put this in the app browser, which is the main component or the parent of all the components, because it's here, so right now the authentication state parameter is available for all the children component. Let's see. For example, if I go here, let me just show you an example. This is the index component code, and if I want to have access for the current authentication state, I just type cascading parameter public task authentication state auth state get and set. So this cascading authentication state, just as I've said, gives a cascading a parameter. The parameter is in the parent, okay? But because it's a cascading, then it could be available for any child component. Any child component can have access for this by just typing here cascading parameter. We are going to implement our own parameters and make some parent components have those parameters for the children. But for now, this is one of the steps. It's not required, but it's good because some components sometimes will require that to know about the current state to do some actions in the code. The other thing is to use here authorize route view. And the reason why we need it, because we will take some actions if the user is authorizing, not authorized, for example. So if he's not authorized, here we can do some actions, and one of the actions is redirect the user to the login. But for now, I'm just at you don't have access, you don't have. Okay, let me add it. You don't have access for this page. Yeah, just a simple string, and we are going to replace it by redirection to the login page. But for now, let's just keep it like this. That's great. Now our authentication mechanism is 100% implemented. I will go right now to the fetch data, and let's try to secure this one. So the user cannot have access for it if he's not logged in. I will add attribute, authorize. So right now it is protected. And also, but yeah, before doing anything else, let's just try to run the application and see how it is performing actually. Okay, great. The application works just normally. I'm not logged in. Why? Because the login schema that I have built, or the authentication state provider, will be logged in if there is an access token existing in the local storage. And right now we don't have. But if we try to go for fetch database, which is protected, I'll click enter, and look what we have. We get you don't have access for this page because we are using the authorized attribute and we are not logged in. How we are going to log in? Okay, let's see how we can do this. I'll go to the login sample I have implemented in the previous sessions and try to log in by sending request. And I get this token as a response, so I will copy it. Then let's go back to browser here, open the console window or the developer tools. Let's go for application. And here you can see that there is local storage. Let's open it. Click on this and I will add a new one. It has to be called access token, right? This is how we write it in the code. And this is the value of it, which is this access token. And this is it, basically. That's pretty simple. So let's close that. So right now, if we refresh any page, it will detect that the user is logged in because there is an access token existing in the local storage. So if we try to go for this one, nothing will happen. Now let's try to go back for fetch data. And here we go. We have access. So this means the authentication mechanism we have built is working 100%. Another check. Let's go for an index. And here I'll just add authorize view. Authorized. And here not authorized. So if it's authorized, then h2 welcome, and I will print the first name of the user, so context dot user. Let's get the claim, find first, which is get the claim. So here we should pass the name of the claim, and I will use the default name that's already existing. This is how our claims provided, dot security, dot claims, dot claim types. Basically this claim type just has a predefined name existing out there. So given name, dot value. If it's not, please log in. So that's pretty simple. Let's click save. Let's run this project again. So it shows to us, welcome Ahmad, because I am logged in. So the process of authentication, it's not about sending requests for this API actually. It's about token from this API existing within your browser. This is the point out of what we have implemented. So we have prepared right now the infrastructure. Now in the next session, we can create that form that brings the access token and put it automatically in the local storage, not like the way we did it manually. So now if we go ahead and I click over here, then remove it and try to refresh this page, you'll see that, please log in. That's great. So this means our authentication system just perfect and works very fine. So until now, you should learn this, how you can implement your own custom one that works very good. So then what about sign out? It's a little bit early for this. We'll implement it after we implement the register and login, but basically sign out is just about removing that access token from the local storage, and that's it. So this is good. Now the infrastructure is ready 100% for us. The next step is to start building UIs for the login and then move to register and move to the other steps of the project. I hope you enjoyed it until now, and again, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe button to support us for more and more videos. So thank you and see you.